Now, the Ukrainians have reopened that investigation, and they have been trying to get this information to us for months. But I want to make sure they don't suppress the investigation of all of this information and all this dirt that they were digging up that goes back at least as early as January of 2016 with a meeting in Obama's White House.
Last question. Will you go there?
I'll go there as soon as I feel that I can have a useful conversation and this president is not surrounded by enemies of Donald Trump. There already is a court
never asked
finding
anything about Hunter Biden. You never asked anything about Joe Biden.
The only thing I asked about
prosecutor.
Joe Biden is to get to the bottom of how it was that Lutsenko, who was appointed, dismissed the case against Antak.
So you did ask Ukraine to look into Joe Biden?
Of course I did.
You just said you didn't.
Mr. Giuliani conveyed to Secretary Perry, Ambassador Volker, and others that President Trump wanted a public statement from President Zelensky committing to investigations of Burisma and the 2016 election. Mr. Giuliani's requests were a quid pro quo for arranging a White House visit for President Zelensky. Mr. Giuliani was expressing the desires of the President of the United States, and we knew these investigations were important to the President. I later came to believe that the resumption of security aid would not occur until there was a public statement from Ukraine committing to the investigations of the 2016 elections and Burisma, as Mr. Giuliani had demanded.
Ambassador Sondland told President Trump the Ukrainians were ready to move forward. Following the call with President Trump, the member of my staff asked Ambassador Sondland what President Trump thought about Ukraine. Ambassador Sondland responded that President Trump cares more about the investigations of Biden, which Giuliani was pressing for.
So you heard President Trump ask Ambassador Sondland, is he going to do the investigation?
Yes, sir. He said, oh, yeah, he's going to do it. He'll do anything you ask.
Over the course of 2018 and 2019, I became increasingly aware of an effort by Rudy Giuliani and others, including his associates Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, to run a campaign to smear Ambassador Yovanovitch and other officials at the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv. During the late spring and summer of 2019, I became alarmed as those efforts bore fruit. They led to the ouster of Ambassador Yovanovitch and hampered U.S. efforts to establish rapport with the new Zelensky administration in Ukraine. In mid-August, it became clear to me that Giuliani's efforts to gin up politically motivated investigations were now infecting U.S. engagement with Ukraine, leveraging President Zelensky's desire for a White House meeting.
The Obama administration did not ask me to help the Clinton campaign or harm the Trump campaign, nor would I have taken any such steps if they had. Partisanship of this type is not compatible with the role of a career Foreign Service officer. With respect to Mayor Giuliani, I have had only minimal contact with him, a total of 3, none related to the events at issue. I do not understand Mr. Giuliani's motives for attacking me.
In the middle of Lev Parnas running that scheme in Ukraine with Rudy Giuliani at the president's direction, in September of this year, September 2019, he neglected to mention to prosecutors that, quote, he received $1 million wired to him from a bank account in Russia. Oh. Prosecutors say he also neglected to mention hundreds of thousands of dollars he received as a kind of pass-through from a Kremlin-connected oligarch who has hired Trump-connected lawyers, who then hired Lev to work for them. That Kremlin-connected oligarch, who prosecutors say is an upper echelon associate of Russian organized crime, is one of the people in Ukraine who's been providing Giuliani with fodder for the impeachment scheme. Lev didn't mention the hundreds of thousands of dollars he'd got through that guy, and he didn't mention that someone in Russia wired him $1 million last month, while he was working for Rudy Giuliani in Giuliani's capacity as President Trump's personal lawyer.